say. Here we go again, another Pentaxian here to tell us about their weird little niche club. And that is exactly what this video is, but give me a chance. Today's video, we're going to talk about the Pentax K1 Mark II and why this is my absolute favorite camera I've ever owned. Though the Pentax K1 Mark II is not a camera for everybody, it is, however, for the select few, the quirky photographer, the end-all be-all camera. In this review, we're going to talk about why I switched to Pentax, some of the pros and cons of this camera, and how I feel after about 6 months of using it. So I started doing photography with the Sony a7R II. So as you can imagine, I followed every photo trend in the book. I shot everything wide open. For whatever reason, this was my goals. Yeah, it was dark times. So after actually learning the basics of photography and learning how to take a properly exposed photo, I found myself wanting more to my work. And Sony, don't get me wrong, is a great system, great company, and they make great stuff. It's just, in my opinion, their stuff's too perfect for my taste. I found myself really having to edit and post to get the look I'm trying to go for. And even using like vintage glass, it still was too perfect looking, and I just couldn't quite get that look I wanted, so I looked towards other systems. When Fuji announced the X Pro 3, I got one soon after, and I really liked that camera. Being a street photographer who shoots mainly on film rangefinders and TLRs, the Fuji X Pro 3 felt right at home with me. At the beginning of this year, I set off on a new project to photograph every lighthouse in Michigan. There's 116 in our state, so it's going to be a multi-year project. And this is where the X Pro 3 was starting to let me down. It's not a very good landscape camera. Having it on a tripod with the flippy screen, it just wasn't ideal. So I was looking at other camera systems, and Pentax had always been on my radar from the get-go. I've noticed they're a brand that kind of did things that other companies didn't. And even back in the day when I was getting the a7R II in like 2014, Pentax was already like way ahead of the game of image body stabilization, the high megapixels, a lot of cool features, the astro tracer, GPS, all that fancy stuff built in that a lot of companies didn't have at the time that you do see now, but they were kind of in the shadows but on the forefront. And I finally just decided to, after constant research, I finally decided let's give them a shot. So I got the Pentax K1. So some of the pros of this camera, it's got a 36 megapixel sensor, which is great for landscapes. It's exactly what I was looking for. It has 14-bit RAW capture and DNG files for RAW, so it's very friendly when it comes to post-editing if you need to do that. It has a 33-point autofocus system, which is kind of laughable when you compare it to like my old Sony that had 400 something. But I found myself lately, I would say 80% of the time I'm shooting fully manually focus. So autofocus isn't a huge selling point to me. And when I do need to use autofocus, it works incredibly well. It's very loud and noisy, it's very funny. Maybe you'll be able to hear it. It's fast, but it's very loud. The screw drive lenses are loud. So, you gotta get used to it. It's definitely not anything you're gonna be conspicuous about. It has insane weather sealing, so if you ever drop it in water, get dirt on it, it's gonna be fine. I've seen some ridiculous videos of people submerging the thing fully in water, burying it in dirt, picking it up and shooting. It's fine. The grip, I have really big hands, and it's a very big camera. This thing weighs 2.23 pounds, so it's an absolute brick. Like, look how thick that thing is. But I have big hands, and it fits perfect in my hands. If you have smaller hands, that may be a little less comfortable to shoot, but for me, it feels great in my hands. Some of the cons of this camera are it only has 4 frames per second shooting in burst mode, so if you do sports, it's probably not the best camera to look at for that. I did shoot it at a drift event, but I just single fire anyway, so it wasn't a huge deal. I used to shoot sports for U of M Dearborn before all this COVID stuff happened. They canceled all fall sports. So, but I used to shoot hockey, soccer, baseball, that sort of thing. And I definitely wouldn't use this camera for that, but that's okay. The astro tracer, when it works, it's really cool. I did a Milky Way shot of a Little Sable Lighthouse, you can see here. And it took me 3 or 4 times to actually get the astro tracer to work. You have to take the camera, you're shaking it all around, trying to line it up. It was really weird, and I looked really stupid for a good minute and a half, but once I got it all set up, it was sweet. The camera is really heavy. As I said, it's 2.23 pounds, so it may get a little tiresome in your hands carrying around all day. Not really something that bothers me, but it could bother someone else. Video recording, it's not very good at recording video. It's only 1080p 30 at the best. So, but if you want a video camera, buy a video camera. That's what every Pentax owner says. I'll stick to that as well. One of the biggest issues with this camera is, unlike its predecessor, it has a built-in noise reduction that you can't turn off, and that can cause some issues at higher ISOs. It personally hasn't been an issue for me yet. I haven't gone past 6400 ISO, so I haven't noticed an issue with it, but it could be an issue in the future, or it could be an issue for you if you get crazy high up there in ISO. I don't know why you would, but now the absolute best part of this camera is the K-mount lenses. K-mount lenses have been around for 45 years now. So that's 45 years of lenses that you can attach to this camera and use. That's 45 years of different lenses that fit different budgets you can use for this camera. Being a college student, I don't have tons of money, so it was really nice to be able to use these older lenses. I've been using the SMC A lenses, which have auto aperture, but other than that, they're fully manual. I have the 35-105 and the 70-210 f4. And the 35-105 is my favorite. It's been my walk-around lens that I mainly use for my magazine I did, Portraits in a Cemetery. And did really well, really sharp images. You can see some of them here. The 70-210 f4 is also incredibly sharp. You can see some of those pictures here. It did really well for the magazine as well. And I actually picked up a Sears 135-2.8 from my local camera store. They had it listed, I think it was $7. And I was like, well, I have to buy that, why not? Let's try it out. And it's incredibly sharp lens. The coating on it sucks, so the sun flare here is kind of weird, but I actually kind of like it. It looks kind of trendy, as the kids say. I also have two autofocus lenses, the 43-1.9 and the 77-1.8 you can see here. Both the lenses are incredibly sharp. It's a part of a lens series, the limited series, and there's something called the Holy Amigos, they call it. It's the 31-1.8, the 43-1.9, the 77-1.8. So I have two of them. I'll eventually get the 31, we'll see. But what I really like about these lenses is not only are they incredibly sharp, they're very unique in that they're not perfect. The 77 especially has this very dreamy type look, especially when you shoot it wide open. And it's something I'll probably never get rid of. It's my absolute go-to lens for portraits. After owning this camera for 6 months, I can say that I regret absolutely nothing. It constantly exceeds my expectations and performs incredibly well in a variety of different scenarios. The only situation I find myself not wanting to bring my Pentax is when I'm out street shooting. But I have my film rangefinders and my TLR for that, so it doesn't really matter. Now, this may not be the fastest, the sharpest, and definitely not the most popular camera on the market, but for the select few quirky photographers who march to the beat of their own drum, this is the perfect DSLR for you. I hope you liked this video. This is my first attempt at doing more talking head type stuff. I'm gonna be doing a lot more reviews, some tutorials, just general photography talk. So if that interests you, please feel free to subscribe. You can check me out on Instagram, my website's all down below. So hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully there'll be more videos. Thanks.